In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. His Excellency Sheikh Hamad, Prime Minister of Qatar. His Excellency the Secretary General, Your Excellencies and Highnesses, may peace and mercy of God be upon you. Firstly, allow me to welcome jointly with you Ministers Rafiq Abdus Salam, Tunisia's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Saad al-Din al-Uthmani, Morocco's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ashur bin Khayal, Libya's Minister of Foreign Affairs. We wish them success in the performance of their duties. Dear brothers, thank you sincerely for holding this session. In addition to the other important affairs and numerous concerns in the Arab world, the Palestinian cause still takes up a considerable room in your minds and efforts. Thus, we appreciate this effort that you are devoting for your major cause, the Palestinian cause. Dear brothers, there are two main topics that I would like to put forward to you. The first is the intra-Palestinian reconciliation. That reconciliation which came about as a result of a coup that took place more than 4 years ago. And you in the Arab League have taken it upon yourselves to set things back into order. Egypt was at the time charged with this task and thankfully exerted a great effort in converging views and eliminating obstacles hindering the progress of this reconciliation in order to reunite the Palestinian people and nation. Indeed, as you know, Egypt finalized an important document that we agreed on long time after. But several meetings took place in Cairo where we addressed together with our brothers in Hamas and all movements a range of issues leading to the beginning of this agreement. Then there was another issue that had to be finalized, the government and its formation. We agreed to meet under the auspices of His Highness Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa. We agreed to meet under the auspices of His Highness Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa in Doha to complete discussions over this topic and finalize other topics. And it happened. This was the gist of the declaration announced in Cairo some days ago. The result yielded from this declaration is to form a government, and the agreement was made. And with God's help, I will also head this interim government on the basis that this will be just a transitional phase. Then elections will take place and this phase will be over. This government that we have agreed on is an interim government that will comprise independent technocrats, technical experts. This government will be charged with two tasks. The first task is to conduct elections, and the second one is to rebuild Gaza in light of Sharm el-Sheikh conference, which was held on the eve of the relentless attack against Gaza Strip. At that time, more than $4 billion were pledged by international donors for rebuilding Gaza. but no progress has been made yet. I think when an agreement is reached on the interim government of independent technocrats, we could request, with your help and under your auspices, to reconvene this conference in order to set into motion what has been agreed and use the funds necessary for the rebuilding of Gaza, because Gaza, with more than 25,000 homes destroyed and tens of thousands of homeless families, is still in the same condition it was since the offensive against it took place. Therefore, the task of this government, as I said, is to conduct legislative, presidential, and national council elections, and at the same time to set into motion what was agreed in Sharm el-Sheikh conference. Now this process has begun, meaning that there are efforts to prepare for the elections. And I would like to say that it should be clear that elections will not take place except after taking measures by our independent Central Elections Commission. This commission will go to Gaza Strip to register newly eligible voters in the electoral roll, the thing which has not been done for 5 years now. Therefore, it is of paramount importance to update electoral registers, since we have no less than 250,000 to 300,000 voters who need re-registration. So this will be the task of this commission. Once this task is accomplished, we will have made it halfway, while the other half is contingent on the Israeli side, meaning that Israel should grant us approval to conduct elections in East Jerusalem, which we hope and seek to have as the capital of the State of Palestine, God willing. The Israeli government had previously approved that the 1996 elections, 2005 elections and 2006 elections be conducted in the city of Jerusalem. We will make a request and we will ask our friends worldwide to talk to the Israeli government into approval. Otherwise, we cannot exclude Jerusalem from the elections, because that would be a clear indication to the world and to Israel that we forsook Jerusalem. And this is absolutely unacceptable to us. So, concerning elections, there are legislative, presidential, and national council elections. There are registers which will be updated, and we still need the approval to conduct elections in Jerusalem. If all of these matters were fully accomplished in accordance with our basic law, the Elections Commission will need 3 months in order to initiate the elections process. And we ask God that progress be made towards free and transparent elections after this date. We hope it takes place in June or July. I'm not sure exactly when. It all depends on the progress made, as I already explained. God willing, it will be a blessed step. And we thank Qatar's government for this initiative under its auspices. And we shall pursue this effort till the end. I hope that we don't encounter any obstacles on the way from any side whatsoever, because elections, reconciliation, and restoring unity among the Palestinian people and Palestinian land in the West Bank and Gaza altogether constitute a vital interest, which is equally important to us and to you. That's all concerning reconciliation. Regarding the peace process, as you know, the Quartet on the 23rd of September launched an initiative proposing that we should complete the agreement over two key issues: borders and security. A common ground for these two issues should be reached within 3 months from the start of the quartet's work. After that, the quartet said also that all the final status issues, including Jerusalem, refugees, borders, ending the conflict, water, and others, should be discussed within year 2012. This is the initiative of the International Follow-up Committee. The quartet started its work on the 26th of October. And it said that they had 3 months to complete these issues. However, after 3 months, nothing was completed and it couldn't do anything. Then there was the kind initiative under the auspices of King Abdullah II. Who took the initiative to exert extraordinary efforts in order to converge views so that an outcome is reached by January, whereas as we agreed that the deadline would be the 26th of January. In fact, on our part as Palestinians, we presented, in the presence of both the quartet and our Arab brothers, our vision concerning borders and security to the Israeli side. We said that we accept the 1967 borders with minor territorial exchanges of equal size and value. With regard to security, we accept the presence of any party whosoever on our Palestinian territories, with the exception of Israeli presence, meaning that if we attained independence, we could accept a third-party monitor who would be there to observe and assist in capacity building or other matters. But we will not accept the presence of the Israelis. Those were the proposals we offered, and the Israelis offered nothing of note in return. Nothing substantial or that can be built on was offered by them. Therefore, everything stopped at this point. There is an important issue that we must address, and that is, few weeks later, we will celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Arab Initiative, which was launched in Beirut Summit. But unfortunately, nothing has happened ever since, because Israel disregarded the initiative. On every opportunity, we remind Israelis that the initiative offers a valuable opportunity for you and for world peace. Recognize the Palestinian state, withdraw from the occupied territories, and in exchange, all Arabs and Muslims will recognize you and normalize relations with you in accordance with the initiative. Israelis, however, were uninterested with this valuable initiative, which we consider by far as the most valuable initiative proposed for the Palestinian cause since more than 60 years. Israelis until now refuse to hold settlement construction, refuse to propose maps, and refuse to acknowledge the roadmap plan. And they say that they expressed 14 reservations, and whether that's true or not, those reservations were not noted by the quartet, which considered that everyone had agreed on the roadmap and therefore everyone should comply with it. Meanwhile, of course, President Obama tried to propose the so-called Trust Rebuilding Initiative in order to pave the way for negotiations. After hesitating, we welcomed the initiative. Why? Because we were worried that the so-called trust rebuilding discussion be deemed as binding or as a concession under the negotiations. However, when the Americans assured us that these trust rebuilding discussions will have nothing to do with the negotiations, we did accept that initiative. What this initiative suggests is that a number of prisoners should be released, a number of barriers should be removed, and the formation of the Palestinian territories should be changed. As you know, Palestinian territories are divided into three areas: A, B, and C. Area C comprises more than 60% of the West Bank and is fully controlled by Israelis. As for Area B, the Palestinian Authority has no actual authority over it. Yet it is considered as Palestinian. When President Obama assumed office more than 1 year ago, we didn't get an answer from the Israeli side, meaning that Israel did not give answers to any of these questions. Yet they started recently to speak about releasing a number of prisoners. By the way, we had made official agreements with them in a meeting in Sharm el-Sheikh to release all prisoners detained since before 1993, and that's around 135 prisoners held in imprisonment since before that time. This means that most of them have been there for more than 30 years ago. But Israel dismissed all that and refused, then later accepted to offer a meager number of proposals, which we could not accept, of course. Of course, I don't want to go into details about what they offered, but for instance, they said, "We are willing to cease settlement construction." How? We won't issue new governmental tenders, but we cannot hold off or disturb private tenders. When 90% of tenders for settlements are private ones, and all that the government does is to facilitate this by confiscating lands, demolishing houses, uprooting trees to give way for settlers. Then when there are tenders by private companies, the Israeli government does not interfere. This is Israel's definition of ceasing settlement activities. This is not right, because settlements are found everywhere. There are settlements in the West Bank and settlements in Jerusalem. I no longer feel that there is a place where settlements cannot be found. I was even telling my colleagues that we might wake up someday to find a settlement right inside Al-Muqata'a compound where we run our affairs. So the settlement issue has grown extremely rampant, that it can't be overlooked anymore. Let me tell you that East Jerusalem is no longer our Jerusalem. Most of it has turned into settlement lands and Israeli houses. It is now theirs and not ours. In addition, every time and on every occasion, they evict Jerusalemites from the city on any grounds in order to eradicate the existing population of Jerusalem. Add to that their refusal to recognize the 1967 borders. They are still adamant that we have to recognize the Jewish state, and should we accept this Jewish state, they would show some understanding of our demands. We honestly cannot accept a Jewish state, for we are aware of the consequences of such term, taking into account the fact that Israel has never before raised this matter with us until 2 years ago. We recognized Israel in 1993 by means of mutual recognition between late President Yasser Arafat and late Rabin, but this they do not recognize. On every occasion, we would say that we recognize Israel. Even USA, even Truman in 1948, when it was put forward to him to recognize the Jewish state, he crossed it out and said, I recognize the state of Israel. So why do they want us now to recognize the Jewish state? Under no circumstances would we accept that, as we know their motive behind it, and it is evident for anyone. If we recognized it, the 1,400,000 Palestinian Arabs in Israel would become valueless, and not a single Palestinian refugee would be allowed to return to Israel. In brief, this is their ultimate goal. That being the case, we said we have to do the following. We will send a letter to the Israeli Prime Minister with a lengthy and expansive content. However, I will explain to you some details. It emphasizes that resumption of talks presupposes the cessation of settlement construction, and that includes East Jerusalem and the acceptance of the two-state solution on the 1967 borders. I think that these matters are legal, in addition to freeing prisoners and detainees, namely those who were arrested before late 1993. The letter will include a range of issues, recapitulating agreements, terms of reference, and the status quo, while stressing that the existing state of affairs should not last. The letter will include so we will explain everything, and in conclusion, we will mention that we cannot accept the current situation, where the authority has no actual authority. We won't accept to remain without actual authority. By the way, we have no authority. Everything we had in Oslo was symbolic and was taken away from us, including the revocation of the so-called civil administration in 1993, and it's now reinstated. It deals with the Palestinians in the West Bank in the same way it did during the occupation. So they gave us nothing under the 1650 resolution. Therefore, in this letter, we will convey that the authority no longer has any authority, and that we will not tolerate the situation as it is anymore. Then we will send letters to some countries of the international community and wait for a response. We will give them the opportunity to give us an answer. If they accept the international legal principles that we reference and aspire to establish, so be it. If they don't, we will go to the international organizations again. We will go to the Security Council. We will go to the General Assembly in order to set into motion the Fourth Geneva Convention and to other organizations, because the world has shown us no mercy. The quartet could not do anything, but perhaps the international legal organizations can. This is what we are planning to do within days. We do know, dear brothers, that when we obtained UNESCO admission, we were punished twice, once by the Congress by cutting off the affluent aid they give to us, and once by Israel, when they withheld the transfer of funds they collect on our behalf as a punishment. So we suffer two punishments, one from here and the other from there. I think that we will face similar punishments and that we will also face similar obstacles. But there is nothing to do. The Americans or Israelis might once again impose against us similar punishments or even worse. Thank you, Your Excellency, the Prime Minister.